Strange things kept happening in my life, so many unexplainable activities. That was too much for a 25-year-old. The other day I had gone for an interview, and while at it, the receptionist's phone got missing, and after a long search, it was heard ringing inside my handbag. And that marked the end of the interview for me, as I was thrown out with my file. That was not the first time I was kicked out of a company. It happened when I was working as a clerk in a supermarket. Then, a large sum of money disappeared, and at the end, it was traced into my account. It didn't start today, it started a long time ago. I remember that day so well. I was only 7 years old then. My parents had taken us down to the village for a very important event, and in the evening of the next day, I followed my dad to go see an uncle of his. After they were done talking, the man, who happened to be a spiritualist, insisted on praying for me before we left. My dad agreed. He asked that I kneel before him. I did. He laid one hand on my head while he used the other to pour libation into the earth, calling on all their ancestors to guide and protect me. And that was it. From that day onward, my life took a different turn. Aside from hearing strange voices calling out to me at nights while I sleep, and faint footsteps walking behind me anytime I'm in a lonely path, I also noticed that I lie more often than normal and take things that don't belong to me. It's not as if my parents couldn't provide me with what I needed. No, my dad was doing very well as a contractor and my mom owned a big supermarket, but I felt satisfied each time I picked an item from an unattended school bag, school lunch, headmistress' office, show glasses, etc. There was even a day I stole M0NEY from the offering box. My parents were never aware of any of these happenings, neither was anyone else. I was just on a world of my own. That evening, as I walked home from the interview, with my shoes in hand, thinking about my life, a red Jeep passed and then halted some distance in front of me. I paused for a moment before I turned and took a different route. As I rushed down the lonely path, I heard the bang of the car door and then a voice I know must be that of the car owner, a man calling out to me. "Excuse me, young lady, may I talk to you?" I didn't turn to take a glance at him. I continued moving and he kept following and begging for attention. At one point, I br0k into a run. Men were not in my dictionary. I was a lesbian. I was initiated into lesbianism by my school mother those days in secondary school. I have been strongly possessed that even after my initiator repented, I still found solace in the arms of a female. The sight of any man detest me. So that afternoon, as I was running away from the stranger that followed me, I realized at a point that he was also running after me. So I stopped. On turning, I saw a tall, dark, young man dressed in black suit and tie. I wondered why such a gentleman would behave the way he did that afternoon. When he saw that I had turned, he stopped running and walked instead. "Why are you following me?" I quarreled. He didn't reply until he got closer to me. "I should be asking you that, why are you running?" he asked. "Okay, I'm here now, what do you want to say to me?" I asked. He smiled. "Actually, I'm Pastor Sunday, by name. I am a guest minister in the program that is ongoing in this town for 3 days now." I sighed. "How is that supposed to be my business?" I asked. "Good question. When I drove past you, I saw something like a thick cloud surrounding you. Sister, you have been caged by the devil, but the good news now is that, the Lord ministered to me. He said I should tell you that your days of agony are over," he announced. I shook my head. These people think they can deceive me again. I am wiser now. I have suffered so much in the hands of prophets and pastors. I was duped of all the money I worked for, during the time I was a cashier. I deposited all into the account of a particular prayer house, whose pastor had deceived me into believing they were praying and fasting for my deliverance. As long as you bring in your full salary into this house, every month, before the end of this year, you will look for that problem and see it no more. He had said. I kept my part of the agreement, transferring my salary at the end of every month to the prayer house, keeping nothing back for my upkeep, not to talk of buying drugs for my sick father. Yet, nothing changed and I still lost the job. I looked the man standing before me straight in the eye. You're talking to the wrong person, Pastor. I'm jobless. I cannot pay you, okay? With that I turned to leave, but his next word made me pause a bit. I never asked you to bring a penny, salvation is free. I smiled and started walking away. I know those men too well, there's nothing free with them, they must in one way or the other, take something from you. We're having a crusade tonight at Kingdom Gate, not too far away from here, you're invited. I heard him saying, but I didn't turn until I reached home. When I got home that day, I found a group of people gathered in my compound. The first thought that came to my mind was my dad is dead, but I waved that aside and ran into the compound. I saw Mom sitting in the center of the crowd with tears in her eyes. Where is Dad? I asked. Your father is inside, nothing happened to him. She answered. I heaved a sigh of relief, and it was only then that I looked at the faces of the people. I noticed they were my uncles and their sons, but then I noticed two other people, two women, dressed in the attire of priestesses. What are all these FET.sh people doing here? I turned to ask my mom. We called them. That was one of my uncles saying. Yes, they are here for you. He added. Yes, we have observed that the reason why nobody is progressing in this family is because of you, one of my cousins said. How? I asked. Because you have a special calling by the gods, you're a very powerful priestess. You have been chosen right from childhood, and angels of protection were assigned to you to always protect you anytime you're in danger. One of the priestesses was saying. I wanted to laugh but stopped when my eyes caught the way my mom was staring at me. Mummy, don't tell me you believe these people, I asked. What else should I believe? How do I explain your father's sudden ill health right after he lost his job? Did you not lose your own job the same day my supermarket was burnt down to ashes, and here we're in the village? You still think all these things are ordinary? She sobbed. You must accept your calling. Oh. My cousins were shouting. Without thinking, I turned and started moving out of the compound. Where is she going? Come back here and answer this call now so we can move forward in life. My cousins were still talking. I didn't look back until I got to the village square. While I was resting under one of the trees, I was hearing the sound of a gospel band from afar. After listening for a while, I decided to go and check what's up. I traced the direction of the music and found myself in front of the village field. Canopies and chairs were set, but there weren't many people there. I wanted to go back, but I thought to myself, it's better you stay here than going back to that house. I entered the field and sat down. Before 9 p.m., people were everywhere, and before long, all the chairs were so occupied that some people had to sit on the ground. After some time, the guest speaker was called out, and it turned out to be the pastor I had an encounter with earlier that day. I moved my seat back a little to avoid him seeing me. I couldn't believe that I eventually found myself in his program. But during praises and worship, I was sitting when suddenly I felt something like a mighty force trying to pull up from my seat. I fought against it for a long time before it finally overpowered me, and not only did it drag me up, it pulled me out from the crowd and dropped me right at the feet of the man of God. When I looked up to him, I had to look away immediately. I told you your deliverance is nigh, he said. I tried to stand but my feet were too heavy to move. You will be delivered tonight, but first, I want you to confess Christ as your Lord and personal Savior. The pastor was saying. I hesitated at first and then, I finally did. There and then I received my deliverance. After I was delivered, it was revealed to me that I have a special calling in the house of God, but the devil has been fighting to ensure I didn't take the call. Today I'm married and my husband and I travel around the world, as evangelists, preaching the word of God to the afflicted. My dad is back on his feet to the shame of my cousins and the priestesses who swore that he will remain bedridden until I answer the call of the gods. No one troubles me again. I'm now a new being, old things are passed away, behold, everything has been made new. The end.